Welcome back to the Marching to Madness College Basketball Podcast, where we have my man, Jim Harrick, former UCLA Bruins head coach, who is the last Bruins coach to win the national championship and cut down the nets. Coach, as you think about that, and we just came off the Final Four, what are some things that, you remember about that maybe we don't know?
Ken, I remember everything about that.
Yeah.
The real thing is Edney bailed us out at Boise in the second round when they went 4.8 seconds the length of the court and scored. And really nobody got really too close to us after that. We were really focused in and concentrating. And I remember I never really get after my team. I talk to them one-on-one, and we have an understanding. But boy, after that game, I jumped them hard, and they heard me loud and clear, and they focused back, and we went on a nice little run there. But I tell you the things you really remember, the great bonding that you have with the team. We had a 25-year anniversary Zoom call with 18 guys on it.
Awesome.
And 3 guys were out of the country in New York and Seattle, and it was absolutely spectacular. One of the great evenings of my life. And everybody went around and talked about what they were doing and their families. And then the last hour and a half, everybody started ragging on each other and telling stories. And the greatest line was, "Coach, I bet you never heard this one." I don't know if I wanted to or not. It was crazy. We had a great time. And then recently, I don't know if you know Doug Erickson or not. He's the director of basketball operations for UCLA. And I hired him when I was a coach there, and I was, you're talking about 30 years ago.
Sure.
And he's been there ever since, and he knows where everybody is. So he invited over 100 former players, coaches, and managers to an evening, the last game. We went up to the practice facility and had tables and food, and everybody visited. We had George Stanich, who was in the Olympics. He's 93 years old in a wheelchair, was there, and Erickson. Wow. And then Russell Westbrook was there, and and then we walked out on the floor, Ken, in decades. The 40 guys in the 40s went out in 50s and 60s, and it was a spectacular evening. He put it together, and those are the things that you remember about having a nice run through the tournament. And I don't know how to explain it, but kind of amazed that when Wooden retired in 75, no one won it till 95.
Yeah.
And you know what, Ken? No one's won it since.
I know.
And that, that baffles me because it's too good of a job. And I just wow. But it's tough to win.
I've still got 4 years of experience. I love Southern California. It's my favorite place in the world. So maybe I'll write Mick Cronin an email and tell him to recruit me.
I don't like the way your wrist went. Stop.
There you go. I tell you what, it's one thing I really wish would have happened is I would have had the foreknowledge to know how to get into coaching. Like I would have gone in somewhere as a low man on the totem pole and worked my way up. It's something, the strategy and stuff of basketball and the game is like no other, in my opinion.
Well, it is, and I look back on my career and I really rolled a 7. I from Charleston, West Virginia, and got married and left that night and got in a car, drove into LA, and I knew nobody. And 28 years later, I'm the head basketball coach at UCLA.
Yeah.
And I always said, what a country. But you know, it can happen to you, and can happen to anybody. Coaching, you know, coaching is not for everybody.
Mm.
I don't like guys who chase the dream, who had a job and lost it, and something happened and they're not working now, and they just chase and chase and chase and chase,
Mm.
and it's really not very profitable except for the head coaches.
Yeah.
And if you can reach that status, you know, it's pretty good.
Hmm.
But you know, I counsel a lot of young kids and tell them, hey, you want to work for yourself. You want to be your own boss.
Sure.
But I never had that privilege. For all my career, 60 years, I worked for somebody, and they could pull my chain anytime they wanted to.
Yeah.
And but that's part of life. That's the choices you make in life. And I had a marvelous, successful run in high school, Pepperdine, and UCLA, Rhode Island, and Georgia, and I'll cherish every moment of it.
Yeah, I remember, that's where we first met when I was covering your teams in Georgia. That if you look at it, that's the last time Georgia figured in, the top of the SEC really. And it was really interesting because I remember one night we went down and Georgia played Mississippi State. You were both in the top five, and we'd gotten there late because I'd covered Florida and South Carolina like at 12 that day. So we come in there and I told my wife then, and I said, where are we going to park? And she said, well, let me have this thing and I'll show you. So this was in the media parking lot. It was a Lexus SUV. She took that up beside a tree and made her own parking place. That's how into Georgia basketball the fans were.
Yeah, we had a good run there. Good run.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about UConn. Were you surprised they went back to back?
So easily.
Yeah. So easily.
There
17.
was not 12 games that the point spread wasn't under 10, double figures.
Yeah.
And they just beat everybody and hammered them.
Mm-hmm.
And it amazes me that all, you know, I coached a lot of years, and
Mm-hmm.
every year is different. Every year is different. UConn didn't have a different year this year. They got nobody sick. They got nobody hurt. They just rolled through. Now they lost 3 games, but you know that's going to happen to you in today's basketball. But boy, I tell you, he's done a magnificent job there, and I don't see him being stopped. I mean,
No.
I think kids would want to go there and play for him, and he's a brilliant coach, and grew up on the court, and you know his dad and Bobby, and wow, what a story!
What a story for UConn. I thought Tristan Newton and Stefan Castle in the backcourt was the biggest difference between them and Purdue. I mean, they totally outplayed those Purdue guards. And, you could let Edie have 35 or whatever if your guards were going to be that dominant.
Well, you know, Castle was so much bigger and stronger than Jones. It was unbelievable. I mean, he just wore him out. And they're good. They guard you. They play hard. They do everything you need to do to win. They're really good, really good.
What I missed was last season's 3 teams that had never been in the Final Four that got in there, but we almost had that with NC State because they hadn't been back since the Jim Valvano in 1983. I really liked the way Kevin Keats he coached that team. It was really ridiculous that he was under fire up there whenever they were 17 and 14 because it was kind of a building year. But DJ Burns, the big man, came through for him in the clutch.
He became my favorite college player down in the tournament.
Me
He was
too.
really something.
Yeah.
They had a great run, but Excuse me, sometimes it ends.
Mhm. Hey, when you look back at the Pac-12 this season, I was hoping they'd get more than 3 teams in, just based on what all's going on in such a negative way, I think, for players, coaches, and whomever.
I think
But
they got 4, Ken. They got 4 in.
4, my bad, my bad. Yeah, Oregon, Colorado, Washington State, and Arizona.
Mhm.
So my bad.
And they fared well. All their teams played really, really, really well in the tournament. And Ken, I'll tell you this: I found myself watching a lot of women's basketball this year.
Me too.
Tremendous amount,
Me too.
and it was really exciting.
It was. I loved South Carolina. The athletes that Dawn Staley put on the floor out there, 8 or 9 of them, and 8 or 9 of them could have a big game and be a problem for whomever the team would be.
Yeah, she's good. She's
Yeah,
good.
I think she is too. When you look at UCLA this season, how far are they away now from getting back to, the tournament? Yet they're going to have to challenge now in the Big Ten, which if it's UCLA like, you expect that to happen.
Are there 18 teams in the Big Ten?
That's
I think
it's what
there are,
yeah,
and it's going to be difficult. If you recruit in the Big Ten, you say, "Hey, fellas, we get to go to California once a year. Wow, isn't that nice?"
yeah,
You say to your kids here, "Hey, we got to go back east 4 times a year,"
yeah,
and that doesn't permeate very well.
no,
And that wears your. I talk to Bobby Huggins all the time.
yeah,
He says every year his team gets worn out, worn out. I
hmm,
mean, he goes from West Virginia to Lubbock, from West Virginia to Waco, from West Virginia to Stillwater, from
hmm,
West Virginia to Lawrence. I mean, every other week.
yeah,
He might go 6 times.
yeah,
And you just don't get a breath. You just don't get a chance to take a breath, and it's crazy, crazy.
yeah. The whole thing is, to me, I mean, it looks to me like that Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA may have like 3 game road trips and come east and stay a week. You know, like what if?
I don't know how they're going to do it,
Yeah,
but I know I was in education for 60 years.
yeah,
Ken, all I ever heard was the welfare of the student athlete and academics.
hmm,
In the last 3 years, I've never heard those words ever.
no,
Care about the welfare of the athlete or academics or anything. Just make money.
make
Just
money.
make money.
Yeah,
And to me, what they've done to the Pac-12,
hmm,
talking about every other sport in the Pac-12, every student athlete. How about the parents and following of each athlete in football and basketball that wants to watch their child perform?
hmm,
I mean, that's just absolutely crushed
hmm,
people that want to. You go to Arizona State. You go to Cal, Stanford. You go to Oregon State. Those are doable.
hmm.
When you're asked to go back to Rutgers and wherever you have to go. I mean, that's ludicrous. And then what are the other sports going to do? You're not going to charter. Now you're going to be on a commercial airline,
Hmm.
and going to be interesting, Ken. Going to be interesting.
If they were going to do this, here's my question. Why didn't they just do it for football? Because that's why they did it anyway. It's totally unfair to both basketball programs. And what about the non-revenue sports and the kids that are coming from somewhere to play those? That's where I think the academic problems could be.
Boy, it's going to be interesting. Going to be interesting.
Do you think maybe after this is kind of a focus on doing this with all the sports, that the Pac-12 might re-enter in basketball in the non-revenues?
What you said is a kind of a feeling of most people I've ever talked to. Why don't just they take football and let football do its thing and leave everybody else alone?
Alone.
Yeah, yeah. And I do not know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I think. You never know, how many people have got a foot in the door that have never coached or never played or not athletic. That's what I think's tough.
I don't know. I've been away from it and want to stay away from it.
Yeah. Hey, you think about this with the NIL and the transfer portal. There was never anything set up for those. They just appeared. There were no, like, to me, the transfer portal needs a ceiling. Not the transfer portal, but the NIL needs a ceiling. While the transfer portal, should a kid really be able to change schools 4 years in a row? I mean,
It's mind-boggling.
yeah, it really is that it came out this way, and these are supposed to be educated people involved.
Yeah. Yeah. They were so greedy they would never share the money that they made in the NCAA tournament. And years ago, if they'd have given kids $250 a month, they'd have been happiest. And nothing would have been, and they could have increased it every year. And no, they're going to keep every single dime, coach. And it came back to haunt them.
Mhm. Hey, would it be an option for a coach now to hire an assistant that's solely in charge of the NIL and the portal?
Coaches aren't allowed to be involved in the NIL. They
Yeah.
got a guy on campus that does it all. So, you know, that's a two-sided sword, because the player comes to the coach. What are you going to do for me?
Yeah.
And the coach is supposed to not be involved in it,
Yeah.
but he is involved in it, and he's always going to be involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they can sit there and realize that coaches aren't going to be involved in NIL. I mean, they're not that stupid.
Yeah.
They're not that stupid,
Yeah.
but I guess they are.
You look at the tournament. One thing that I was really upset about was how the inconsistent officiating across the country permeated itself from night after night during the regular season into the tournament. The one thing that happened that I thought was totally wrong was Auburn when they lost to Yale. The referee ejected with a flagrant two Chad Baker Mazzara, who was a big time, he had a big heart, and he turned into a really good defensive player with his length and an offensive player as a shooter. So they eject him. What happened was the kid that hit him in the head on the other end of the floor ran up under his arm trying to steal the ball, and he shook his arm to try to get him away. I mean, that is just incredible to me. And I'd never heard of the official that did it, and I'm pretty much on top of those.
You comment on officiating, they call you a crybaby. So
Yeah,
you never say anything. You just go away and take it.
yeah.
I lost I lost two NCAA tournament games in what I deem bad calls
Yeah,
at the
the
buzzer. At the
Stanford,
buzzer.
that Stanford game was the one I think of the most. Which one, which other one do you have?
The next year we played in the first round of the NCAA tournament. My kid Antonio Reynolds Dean hits a three to win the game, and a guy comes running over and said, "No, he traveled."
Ah,
I didn't see any travel.
yeah,
And he runs off the floor. And
yeah,
the game's over. And boy, I tell you that stuff like that is.
yeah. That would, and I'm sure you were kind of this way too. That would have made my blood pressure go out the ceiling. I tell you, that that that's that's the stuff we're still seeing. It feels like you know, that a lot of these guys, they don't work to make themselves better. And they need to do that for everybody, you know, that's into the game.
Yeah, they say they do, but
Mhm.
I don't know, Ken. I don't know. I don't get into that part of it.
Yeah, I hear you. NBA playoffs. It's interesting. How about those Clippers, you know, with that big win over Dallas? And nobody, I don't think anybody expected them maybe to win, but not that handily.
Boy, Dallas couldn't make a shot. They
Mhm.
were just they were not very good.
Yeah.
I expect them to come back tomorrow night.
Mhm.
Doncic's not going out like that, coach.
No.
He going out with 40, 45, and you better guard him.
Yeah.
And the Clippers shot really well. I hope they can do it again. James Harden's playing really well, and but you don't play really well every night. So I hope they can come back and do it again. They got a nice club. We certainly wish they'd have Leonard because the month there or 6 weeks they had Leonard, they went 26-5.
Mhm.
They were really good.
On
Really,
fire.
it's hard
Yeah.
to reach that pinnacle again.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we'll see.
Yeah, and the Lakers, I like watching Jokic with the Denver Nuggets because he's so versatile as a big man, obviously with the post up, but also with the jump shot out from the perimeter. And then I love a big man that can pass the ball and get assists like he does.
He's phenomenal. He's so much better than a lot of guys that lifts his team up, makes everybody on his team better. If I were a basketball player, I'd give my left arm to play with Jokic.
Yeah. And
He's good.
yeah, and he's good through wanting to win. That's the big thing, I think.
Mhm.
Last thing, Coach, when we look back, you know, at the college game, you know, we've talked about the portal, we've talked about the NIL. What are some issues maybe that haven't been addressed because of how much we've heard about those two?
I just, I really, I mean, it's always hammered into me about the academics and academics, and you never, ever, ever hear people, athletic directors, presidents, ever talk
Mhm.
about academics anymore. And so few of these kids are going to play after college that they have to understand to get a degree is really a beneficial thing. And I don't see it on the surface anymore. And
Mm.
I have three sons, and they graduated from college, and
Sure.
and that's one of my most proud moments in my life. And it's taken them to different heights in their careers, and
Mhm.
taken me to different. The greatest thing I ever did, besides having a wife and family, was graduate from college. It
Yeah.
allowed me to do the things that I've done. I couldn't even teach high school if I didn't graduate.
Yeah.
So, so I just hope we get back to realization in this thing, and somebody somewhere says, "Hey, wait, stop.
Hmm.
Here's the way it's going to be."
Hmm.
Fox and ESPN, if you want a TV football and basketball games, we'll give you that opportunity. But we're going to put the leagues back in order in their same region, and all five or all six of the power conferences are going to make exactly the same money. And power conferences, if you don't like it,
Hmm.
then you can get out and go somewhere else and do your own thing. But somebody's got to have some common sense
Hmm.
about this, and kick kids to the curb. It's just what the presidents of the Pac-12 did to their student athletes.
Hmm.
Criminal,
Yeah.
criminal.
Yeah. I read about all that stuff and I was so disappointed that, you know, they didn't put the Pac-12. It's a 107-year-old league, but they didn't honor it. So there we had it.
Oh, other conferences. I mean, it's like It's like they're all piranhas out there just going to eat each other up.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're in this thing for. That's not it's not why I got in it.
Sure. Yeah. Coach, it's always a pleasure, man. I enjoy talking to you, and I wish you the best as we're going through the playoffs here. Are you going to be at any of those Clippers games?
You know, I have an opportunity, but I'm probably not going.
Yeah.
I've been to the Final Four, and I've been on the road. I've been going to hundreds of games, and I'm going to stay home and watch them.
Yeah. I've been driving. I actually flew to Nashville for the SEC tournament. And then I went back to Charlotte. It was the first time I'd been on the ground in Charlotte since I left. And I saw, Tennessee, Texas, and Carolina, Michigan State on the round of 32. A lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Great talking to you, man. Good
It's
luck to you.
It's always great to talk to you and see you. I have mad respect for you. You know that, though.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.